Good rest of your lurking. Um, the thing that is happening is that basically the overall um system, no, the overall, that's really bad. I wish that wasn't, but it is. The, the alerts that I have are the previous alerts that are in 16 by 9, and the ones that I have, the thing that you said, like remove the prefix and so on from the TTS, is from the 2 by 1. So, yeah. Yeah, I was debating about that, but I kind of wanted to have them fatter. Technically, I can't. I'm kidding. Um, it's not. Can I do that? Um, is that an option? I just switched the encoder for YouTube to see if that changes anything. It seems to work. It seems to work. We can do that now. Um, it usually we can't change things live, but because I just did, we can apparently. It happens. It happens. Inez, hi, welcome in. Do you help UI UX designers? Yes, I do. If you have any design question, um, feel free to ask. I've been a designer for the past like 20 years, so I have some experience. So if you have like questions, things that you want me to take a look at, feel free to share. However, on YouTube, I don't think you can share links. That's how YouTube works. I don't know why, but that's how it works. So if you want to jump onto Twitch to share a link, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, if you want to stay on YouTube, feel free to stay there. But yes, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Feel free to ask. So far things are optimized, Stony, on stuff. Optimized, kind of. I don't like this view. I don't like the fact that this is close to the edge. Um, right? Because that's kind of shit. That's true. Discord does have um channels and things if you want to share links, even though not that active and reactive. But yeah, so I don't know how I like this view. It's okay. Um, it's fine. It's yeah. It's what I could find. I didn't want to have the camera overlap the content because we had that before, and every time we were like, oh yeah, the thing that is right behind my camera and so on. So I wanted to have something that is a bit more regular, but just so you know, the usual thing. And then now what's pissing me off is this section, sorry, this section right here, underneath the camera that is really empty, and we only have the daily follows, but it's also even with the daily follow, it feels out of place. There is something that is missing, which I really don't like. So yeah, you know, that's these are activities and stuff that exist. And then this view is still really good. I still like it better than what we had before. It now has the corner radius for the iPhone as we expected on the previous one, but I didn't do. So we do have that, which is good. It's working. It's all we need. Um, and yeah. What do you mean not enough padding horizontal? Where? Where? Here? In between the two? Like right there? Yeah, kinda. Do I care? No. I do not. Uh, what do you mean proud of you? Cat, hi, welcome on in. Good day. What you calling browser view? We don't have any browser view. Or do you mean the chain itself? I don't have a browser scene. You mean that, which is not my browser, but yeah. Um, are you talking about this section, like the fact that that's me, the edge is not real? Like, yeah, I don't know. I I tried. I adjusted things here and there, and it kind of broke. But yeah, um, technically the edge are exactly the same as the real edge right here. Like if you take a look at it, I'm really close to the element. So you know, like that's a natural thing. It's just OBS is weird. I guess if we go into regular behavior right here, the view is probably going to be better. Also, why am I unstable? I mean, that I kind of know, but yeah. Um, why is that unstable now? Oh, yeah. No, we kind of okay. Not the best, but kind of okay. I've I've seen better. I've seen better. Yeah. Um, and Ines, just to so that you know what we're talking about, I've had a bit of an issue with the stream and with my computer for the past few months. And so I had to reset the entire thing. That's why we're kind of looking at the details and stuff right now. But yeah, that's where we are. So whenever you feel comfortable asking your questions, feel free to do so. That's fine by me. When you have like the proper formulations, that's good. You can do that. So yeah. Also, cat 20 hours is a lot. 20 hours is a lot. I was doing my regular research things for activities and things to talk about. There is a ton of cats on my feed, as always. Um, so, you know, the usual thing. Uh, so we've had some stuff. Let me go back to where we stopped on Friday. I didn't have much, me saying that, and then we will have like 60,000 liked stuff again. I feel like we stopped somewhere around here. We saw this thing that was mostly for Yan and Hippo in general, and how he could have some things for the website version for an unlimited Canva. Um, with all of the information that they needed. That could be something. I kind of like this view. There is something interesting about it, but there is also things that behave weirdly, as in that glass distortion right here is really weird, and that glass distortion right here is really weird as well. But other than that, it's a pretty cool thing. I think we talked about it on Friday, so let's go quicker. On top of that, this one was really interesting for the pattern that it is. We've been seeing a ton of onboarding and other new feature onboarding things in apps that have been adding and adding and adding and adding motion design. So these ones are pretty interesting as well. They are using a lot of flat elements. That's why it's pretty new. I don't like to say new, but like pretty new in the sense that most of these things can be done inside of Figma with no fucking issues because, you know, it's um, it's simple. It's easy. It's just illustration. So that's something that is interesting and to be mentioned. We talked about that, and then we stopped here. This one was really cool, and that's a sad news that we need to talk about in a way. In macOS Tahoe, which is now my home, the apps cannot change their shapes. So we don't have any apps that have the ability to change their shapes. Arc is a bitch. That's what it is. Nothing else to say. I don't know why they don't change this to the latest icon versions, but that's the thing. And we don't have the ability to have like elements going outside of the container. And so this is some of the apps for play, or some of the apps icon for play that, you know, were concept and so on, and they were really good, but now we can't have this, so that's pretty sad. So yeah. You say you're still struggling with padding and margin, but I think following the formula from the internet is a good move. Padding and the margin are different depending on the product. So the padding is what is inside of an element, and the margin is what is outside of the element. There is no different name, or at least it shouldn't be. If it is, that's going to be kind of weird. So when you are inside of, if you're using Figma or whatever else you want, if you're creating like a button with text, and you have your, you have your element right here, and you say that you want the padding around the text to be 12 on both sides, so horizontal padding of 12 and vertical of 8, that is going to give you basically the padding of the element. If you want the margin, this is any space that you have around this. So if I had like this thing inside of a frame and I'm placing it here at 8, 8, this could have a margin of 8 around said element. And so that's what it is. When you think of it, maybe that could be helpful. You could say that this frame right here has a padding of 8, which means that there is a distance in between the outer and the inner of 8 as well. But it depends on how it is set up. So the padding and margin situation is usually relating to CSS and HTML and things, which means that when you are setting up margin, is going to push the element outside or like away from where it's supposed to be. And when you're putting some margin, it's going to increase the size of the element. So from here, if I change my margin, it's going to grow, right? Horizontally or vertically. And that's the space inside. And if I were to change the margin around the element, which we can't do in Figma, which is a bit annoying, you would basically change the button position here or here, if that makes sense. I'm not gonna lie, I have had, I would say, 3 years of confusions about padding and margin and which one is which and which goes inside and which go outside, and you know, yeah, that's a thing. Also, Kat, I just read that message. It's not me. I mean, it was me yesterday, but it's not me today. So don't worry about it. So that's the thing. Unless you are asking the question about the padding and margin for the corner radius, which is something that is different, but yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Unsure now. Unsure. Also, YouTube is telling me that 5 kilobit seconds is higher than the recommended amount. I mean, 5,000. kilobit seconds. Makes no sense. Um, I yesterday I was so much pregnant, and I shouldn't have done it, which means that I slept like shit, and then I woke up like shit, and I'm still feeling shit. I have like a thing in my eyes that pissed me off. So all of that to say, it was not the best idea from myself to myself. Uh, One day I'll figure it out. They had good nuggets though. They had pretty good nuggets. Um, so yeah, that's the regarding like UI and UX and designer related stuff. The thing that is pissing me off most of the time is the fact that we should have access to the tools that the devs are going to have access to. And so when it comes to like padding and margin, we only currently in the tools that we know, we only have the ability to define the padding, which is the inside of something. And again, from what I said, if I wanted to have like a space that is specific around that button inside, I could make this outer frame be a container that resizes itself. And so then it will have like an 8:8 padding around it with the auto layout section. That is in Figma. In Sketch, it's kind of the same thing with the auto layout thing. In Adobe XD, I forgot, it's been a while. And so if you go into something like Framer or even Framer, I'm not sure, but Webflow, at least Webflow, I know that they do have something like padding and margin for the content and the elements, in which case you will end up with things that are much better. So, you know, with that in mind, this is uh, this is a bit annoying because you will have to, if you're a designer and not a dev designer, you will have to um, only focus on the fact that you can only understand how the padding is set up, um, and not necessarily the margin, which is sad. I wish that wasn't the case, but that is the case. Like, we are forced to just know that the blue side right here, for example, is technically a padding, and the blue side right here is technically a padding as well. But we could have something that is roughly a margin, but we don't have the ability to do that in Figma or any design tools. Unless, and that might be a me thing that I don't know, which is probable, Penpot may have things for padding and margin. I forgot because they changed their bitch, don't move what I'm zooming in. They changed the inspector last 3 months ago, 4 months ago, a bit more than that. I feel like it's 6 months ago, but they changed the inspector a bit ago. That's gonna be it, and that's gonna potentially have that. But no, apparently no. I'm lying. Cool, good. Uh, so yeah, that's annoying. If you're just a designer, don't care about it. Just care about your spacings. You can reduce in your head if that's easier. Reduce the margin padding. What the fuck is that? How do I use it, and so on. I just need to make sure that my spacing in between my elements is good, meaning that here I know that I have a spacing of 17, 16 on both sides, and 8 top and bottom around the font. And then on this one, I know that I have my spacing of 8 around the entire, um, like the entire element that is here. And so that's basically what you need to know. That's that simple. Why is you at 17 and oh, that's one. My bad. My bad. So yeah, that's the long. What's the good spacing? There is no good spacing. It depends on the situation. Like there is no value that will be set to you as yes, this is good spacing. I'm going to use that because it's helpful. um, in like most of the thing that you're going to see on the internet, you're going to have shit like this. And in these, they are telling you exactly the spacing or the size of elements is supposed to be 14, 16, 4 spacing in between these two things. This is fake information, and it's probably most of the time wrong data based on whatever you're trying to do. The reason for this is when you have spacing or sizing of an element in mobile, for example, a button that would be something like a 48 pixel height button. If you do that same 48 pixel height button on a big ass TV, it will look so tiny. And so the spacing or sizing of that element, for example, is contextual to where it's supposed to be. So you need to make sure that your elements and your spacing is relative to what you're trying to build. So there is no way for me to tell you that spacing, what is the good amount of spacing, what is not the good amount of spacing. It really depends on what you're trying to build. So for example, here we have some things that have way less spacing in between them than some others. And sometimes we have a lot of white space and sometimes we don't. All of that depends on how you perceive the view, the screen, the thing that you're building. If you want to get into UI UX in general, I have like where is this thing? I have made a boot camp kind of thing, a series of like 9 videos that is free, is on YouTube, uh, for understanding how Figma works, which touch on a lot of design points as well. But all of the things that I'm showcasing right now are coming from the bootcamp. And so there is no good spacing. There are rules, um, like you can have a scale that makes sense. You probably will see things related to the 4-point grid or the 8-point grid. Um, but yeah. Um, Yeah, so if you've been yelled at, that's really bad. I'm sorry about that. That's the first thing. Sorry to you. You may have made mistakes in the eyes of the person that is reviewing your design. So if you have made something like, let's do this, that's going to be a very simple. You said a pricing card, right? So let's say you have a title and then you had like a subtitle right here, and you decided to make the price uh, a big element like this, right? That's your price. They may have thought that you made a mistake because you had something that was uh, like similar amount of spacing for everything, and they were expecting a bit more separation in between the text and the number. They may be expecting something more like the price is on the far right and so on. That if they can't explain why you made a mistake, you didn't make a mistake. You made the thing the way that you wanted it to be, and they just didn't like it and they can't explain why, which is fine, right? Don't beat yourself for doing something wrong. You did something and they just didn't like it. That's fine. It happens. If you want to get like better, uh, or yell at less, maybe, I don't know. Go on Dribble, look for things that are related to the element that you're trying to build. Dribble, Behance, Pinterest, wherever you find your inspiration, if you look for inspiration somewhere. But that's basically where you will find things. You're talking about a pricing cards. Um, and yeah, most of the things, and we have a full element in the Mom UI kit for what these are supposed to be, but also supposed to be is kind of wild. That might be what they were expecting out of you. Like they might have been expecting something that looks like this, like a three-tier column of three prices, and that's what you have. They might have been expecting something like this with your three tiers and then the details of the selected tier on the side. And, like you have a ton of options for whatever design elements you're trying to build. The common practice is going to be something that looks like this. So that's the regular design for most of the pricing systems. You have three cards. For the cheaper one, usually free, or the cheapest of the options, the middle ground, which is the deterrent-ish, and then the teams or the pro or extra or whatever, that is going to be the most expensive, but it's supposed to be something that is really close. Like right now, these are really bad. From 9 to 19 is just $10 increase. And from 19 to 49, this is like a $30 increased. So a lot of people would say, well, technically the team is good enough, and that's way too expensive for us. Whereas if they had done a 9 to 39 and then a 39 to 49, they would have been like selling a lot more 49s just because of the psychology of things. That's other things. That's not design related. But yeah, these are like the basis of what you will have again on the Mom UI kit and what I just shared a second ago. Um, in the elements that are currently built, we have a pricing section, and in said pricing section, there are things which are supposed to be somewhere around. Where's this thing? Here. And so you have multiple options, but we are keeping that three tier every time. And so the card itself is a very basic things to just give you the content. You have the title, the recommended, if it is recommended or not, like that's something that can be added and removed and so on. The price in question, the features. And so with that simple card, you end up with a design like this, a design like this, which is kind of similar. Like these two are kind of the same, and another like this. And it's exactly the same components, the same elements, the same thing, just different design themselves. So if you were yelled at because you designed something like this, but your boss or client or something was expecting something like this, that's not your fault. It's just like they didn't explain properly or you didn't listen. That happens. Um, but yeah, that's a thing. It happens. It's fine. So get some inspiration, or I would say better option for you would be to get some inspiration and then send that to the client or the boss or whoever is in charge and say, I found this, this, and I don't know, the other one that was kind of weird, and this, which one is good for the spacing and the things and the whatever, um, based on your criterias, because right now you are not giving me any constructive feedback or information about why it's bad, why it's good, and so on. If you can do that, that would be the easiest thing. But yeah, that's you do this, you just send them IDs of cards, and then see with them. Like, yes, that's like maybe they come, you send them that, and they tell you, yes, that's exactly what we were looking for. Subtle pastel in the background, a good icon that attracts the eyes, the price front and center, so that you know we know, they know, the person that is going to the website know exactly what they are about to pay. And then the feature underneath that is not necessarily the most important thing, but it's right there. That might be what they're looking for, and you may have done that differently, and that's fine. So I would highly recommend you to do that. Go through Dribble if you have access to it. If you don't, go through other website that you have access to. Um, but yeah, using AI like Claude for generating a design is going to be really bad in the long run, because the only thing that you can generate is going to be the same thing that everyone else has. So I would recommend against it. But I understand, right? Um, I think, is it I forgot if it's Westboro, if it's something else. I don't think it's Westboro. Now that I'm thinking about it, it might be though. Yeah, it is. So he made a video right about yesterday, and now obviously it's not live yet. God damn it. Um, and we've been talking about it, but like he's been, bitch, I forgot that I wasn't. I forgot I'm not logged in. Um, that's the issue with like a new Mac. God damn it. Come on, log. Oh, fuck's sake. Um, that are the same shape. Damn it, TikTok. Like you're not that complex. Cool. Um, why is this thing not there anymore? That's crazy. I saw this video yesterday. Did he make a new fucking channel? Anyways, it doesn't matter. AI right now is generating things that looks the same every time. So when you will have, or when you have like, or ask an AI to create something for you, they will generate something that basically looks the same as anyone else. If I go into um, load right there, god damn it, I'm not going to be logged in again on this one. Ah, um, let's do that. Be creative, please. That's what's gonna stand out as much as you can. Like let's say create an artifact for a pricing page uh, for, I don't know, SaaS. Yeah. Um, I don't care. To be honest, right now, I don't care. Um, that pricing page that is going to be generated right now is going to be, I'm betting it's going to be the same thing as the Tailwind CSS or Tailwind CSS component or template um, that they have that is related to pricing section. I'm expecting, let me check. I guess Studio is going to be an option, but also like, it doesn't matter which one it is, to be honest. It's whichever. It just needs to be like a SaaS marketing things. If we go into pricing section, the probability of Claude creating something similar to this is really, really high. And so right now, if I just use that, that's a vertical element. Interesting, they went mobile first. But basically what is generated is this purple to pink-ish gradient that is very AI generated. And then it's okay. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great either. And if you want to use that as a base, why not? That's an option. But eh, not ideal. Um, what I would say is, first thing, good thing that you are not in the company anymore. Congrats on doing that. Um, but the the probable reason why the boss wanted you to use like an AI instead of your skills is either because they don't really understand what you can do and they just wanted to have something really quickly, or um, they don't know what they want, and what you have proposed is a tad outside of what they had in their mind, and therefore they were like, I don't know, maybe, but probably not. So that's an option. I don't know. AI is going to generate things that are not necessarily good 90% of the time. The only one that we've seen lately that is okay-ish is um, Helium? No. Me and my memory. Goddamn. Um, I forgot the name. It doesn't matter. Anyways, it is uh, the things that Theo is talking about most of the time. Let me check. Where the fuck do they move things around all the time? God damn. Theo, you're so loud. Theo has talked about helium right about that. He makes so many videos that piss me off. Not helium, Horizon. Goddamn, brain. Horizon was pretty good at generating things, but then it's not like groundbreaking. Again, designer here, so I am biased to the fullest. I forgot. Horizon was really good to create something that looks interesting, but also is performant. And then in terms of generating things, we had potentials, right? But at the end of the day, they all look the same and they all look very much AI generated, at least for me. Um, but like this things, for example, is what they have generated and they look really AI generated, if that makes sense. So to me, there is like a lot of things that stand out as not good. But if the person, again, that's something that is me and my experience with helping others and teaching design for the past 10, 12 years. Um, if I'm telling you that this is shit and that's it, I'm not a good designer. I am not a good teacher, and I am not someone that you should take advice from. If I'm telling you this is shit because I'm explaining my point of view and I'm giving you some pointers on what to fix and how to fix it, it's a bit of a better thing to do. So, like, good thing you're out of the company. That's the first thing. If you want, like, really easy to let me remove that. If you want things to read, if you are interested in learning and reading and so on, this is pretty good. Loads of UX is one of the website that I would highly recommend you to check out, and just make sure that you understand and um, it really understand things,
Atakambakix is
because
just resubscribed for 29 months. He.
Atakan, welcome back. Thanks a lot for the resub for 29 months. I appreciate it. How are you? How's the day going? So yeah, loads of UX is really good, mainly because it will give you the information that you are looking for spacings, for example. Anything that is into the vicinity of something like the law of proximity, for example, implies that these elements work together and these don't, or at least they are working together on their own and the white one are working together. There's also the law of similarity on this specific presentation, where all of the white beige ones are similar enough and all of the gray black ones are similar enough. So, it's it makes sense. Um, but yeah, like, this whole website is highly, highly, highly recommended for you to just get better at understanding the principles of UX design in general, but also like just understanding how to organize things on a page. The other thing is going to be, um, if you just want some inspiration or some useful things, tools.design is another thing that I recommend every fucking time, because it will give you resources everywhere. So Laws of UX, which is right here, is inside of these things that we are recommending all the time, but it will help for other things. So if you are just into the learning section, Yaron, hi, welcome on in. You might make it. Into the learning section of tools.design, you will have things that will be, goddamn, that was so close. I just saw that on the side. You will have other resources, other websites that will give you information. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. At the beginning, I recommend you to go through the free ones. But if you can pay for stuff, pay for stuff. I highly appreciate it, as always. In some of the weirdest one, the this website, the growth.design, is pretty interesting. Nox, hi, welcome in. How are you? And so they have like weird presentation using Bitmojis and other things. That's wild. But their case studies and the thing that they are presenting every single time is impressive, and the content is really good. Um, Sometimes it's not free, sometimes it's free, and so on. But they have like a very friendly way of presenting a case study. And it's very much storytelling, which makes a lot of sense, and it's the reason why it works and why we like them. But they are really, really good at presenting data, explaining why, really making you understand the psychology behind the reasoning of the thing that they are presenting, and so on. So that's um, another thing that I would highly, highly recommend. Just to take a look. But as Knox said, tools.design is one of the most underrated resources that you can get access to, just because of how many things you get access to. each of these sections is filled with things that will help you just um, get better. And so if you are right now just looking at, I don't know, getting better at accessibility, you can go in there, look for articles and things that will help you get better at accessibility. Again, some of them are paid, most of them are free, and it's so good. It's so useful. It is so useful. So highly, highly recommend you to just take a look at this and go through the entire thing, basically. If you have the time, take the time. Uh, so yeah, it's I would say it's the best option. Um, and you will learn so much, by the way. That is uh, an easy thing to do, Darren. That's easy. Just die. Or drugs, yes. Yes. The other D, yes. The D is always good. Yes. So yeah, that's tools.design is one of the best option. And then the last one, which obviously I am biased, but this stream is pretty good. Not biased in the slightest. But yeah, if you have any question, if you have any need for understanding something, you can just come here, ask a question in chat, and as long as I can help, I will help. If you ask something that I don't know, I'm going to do some research about it. And then the next time you come in, I'm going to have an answer. So that's an option. That is an option. But yeah, also very much biased on this one. In the latest thing that we have, which I don't have a button for, and I'm gonna use the regular thing. um, UI.live is one of the latest tools that we have had access to, and it is good for one specific reason, which is once you find something in there that you find good enough or you think is good enough for what you're trying to achieve. Let's say you like this thing and you are using Figma for your design tool. You click on the Figma button right here. Once you're logged in, obviously, right now I'm not apparently because new computer. Um, but you just you click on the Figma button and then you go on Figma and you just paste it, and now you have the thing entirely designed uh, for you, not by you, but for you in no time, and you can just explore and understand what they have done, why they have done it this way. And maybe if you just wanted the top section, because that's what was important to you, you can just do that, delete the rest, and now you have that section that you found interesting on live dot or UI.live, and you're done. Nothing else to do. So that's an option. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it helps. Really goes faster, and you know, it's a pretty overall good thing to get resources like this. So yeah. And Cat, just even though joking but not joking, not.
Atakambakix is just gifted 1 subs.
I appreciate the gifted sub to Mario or Mario Kart 888, which is kind of sad but fine. Thanks for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. One of the things that I can recommend you for the anxiety and so on, and I know it's the easiest thing to say, but stop giving a fuck. I know. but it changed me. the the instant I kind of stopped giving a fuck about everything, there are still things, sadly, that you know, um, I still give a fuck about. But most of the things that used to impact me, I just don't care anymore. I'm too old to think about it. I am too tired to think about it. You know, and yeah, that helps so much, so much. What do you mean a hype train? Who did they? Who? Who did it? That is not. No. Appreciate it. But yeah, like that's a thing that you could do. Yes. Um, yes, you need to think about how the user is going to use something in a page, in an app, in whatever. That comes with either research on your end. So loads of UX, for example, will help you understand how and where to place things. But other elements like or other things are going to be helpful and giving you the answer on how the user is going to use the things based on other existing elements. So my regular recommendation has always been Pinterest, and right now Pinterest is kind of dead. The algorithm on my side is kind of dead, which is fine. Um, which, it happens. If it's not on your side, take advantage of it. But let's say you're looking for a smart home app. You look for smart home UI design mobile app, for example, right? You will have recommendations and all elements and design that already exist of people that have done these types of design research or design project in the past. And so by looking at this and then comparing it to this and then comparing that to this and so on for as many as you want to, check and compare, you will find or you should find a pattern of how some of these things are supposed to be displayed. So when you look at the first three that I had, right, we have a home screen with some of the information, which is the data that we have right here, and then cards related to products. And on this one, which is a bit different, we have some information about the person and cards related to products. Then if I go on this one, we have something at the top and then cards related to products, which means that in my head, I'm already aware that this pattern exists. There is something in the regular smart home apps that is consisting of something at the top with some data or some messaging for the user, and then underneath some cards related to the products and or the thing that we have in the smart home. So if I am to build like a smart home app, I'm probably going to do something that is similar, might make some changes in order to not be a copycat of what already exists, but the system or the behavior is going to be basically the same. I'm going to have something at the top, which is the information about the user and I don't know, some interesting thing for them. And then underneath, I'm going to have some cards that are related to the products in their home that they can control. Maybe I'm going to do something like this, which is like way different. This is not a practical option, but maybe you could have like a jumble mess of tags and then the title at the top or something different. It's an option. It's there. It's something that you could do. Maybe you have them in circles and so on. the way that the user is going to use the thing that you're building is going to be defined by how common the thing that you're building is. So again, a smart home app is something that is common-ish, and it needs to be, um, well, good and common so that people understand what they can do in that thing. But it doesn't mean or need to be boring or simple. Something like you could have something like this that has cats, which is different. Obviously, this is not necessarily like a smart home app, but that design is different, but the system and the basic layout is the same. Like the difference in between this, right? This grid right here and this grid right here, it's basically the same thing. Um, There's a different illustration, different colors, but overall, it's the same content. It's just different actions. So that is how you know how the user are going to use said thing that you're building, just by looking at and playing with existing things or existing products and or thing that you have built on your own. So the more you build, the better you're going to be. The more inspiration you look at, the better you're going to be as well, because it's just it's feeding you, and that just helps, you know. So that's the thing. Like right here, I can see exactly how the user is going to use that screen. Um, and also can, yes. What? You know, not guilty. Might be. I don't know. It depends. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, Ines, that's the. I would say that's the main thing. That's crazy though. I see this now. That's crazy. This is the initial thing from Joy Planner. That's crazy. It's so much better now. I mean, so much better. It's so different. That's so nice to see. It's also really, I'm really happy with what Alexei has done, mainly because of everyone else that has copied what just existed today. Yeah, I'm impressed by this. Impressed by this thing. So yeah. There is one that I saw today, which is called Weird Wealth, right? That and so apparently weirdwealth.co, which this one is sending me to find a fetish, which is kind of bad. Um, but yeah, Weird Wealth seems to be similar, where it's basically pay pigs that are willing to pay for things. Though, so they are doing requests, and you do said request, and they are paying for stuff. So, you know, not recommending. Um, but I just came across that thing earlier today, and I don't know. I do not know which one is the right one, which one is a scam, which one is not a scam. There is plenty of these websites with very, very, very similar URLs. So don't just click on something um, and expect it to work. It's just, yeah, um, it's a thing. It's a thing. So yeah, that's the that's where we land. That's where we are. Um, so most of the things, again, I'm going back to what I was saying. Most people have an inherent understanding of how apps are behaving because they are using apps on a daily. Most people, not all people, but most people. And so if I'm looking at this, for example, which is one of my phones, uh, and if I'm opening one of the apps that I've built myself, you end up with something that is simple enough, um, and you might understand what you can do at a glance, you might not, but by the sheer fact that there is a tab bar at the bottom, there are some cards in the center, and there is a plus button at the top, most user would have the understanding that they can do things in either changing tabs or pressing the plus button and then have access to stuff on pressing on the card itself. Like that's the usual realm of what people think they can do when they arrive on a page, specifically on an app. And so that, you know, um, is basically how you build stuff. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. That seems to have kind of break. Interesting. Interesting. I'm seeing some of the elements grow on this one. Um, so yeah, if you're currently in education or tech education things, edu tech stuff, um, you have a lot of opportunities. I think for me, agencies are the most formatting, formatting, forming, teaching places because you will learn so much in so little time. Um, so yeah, to design a website which already have a guideline. Well, yeah. I mean, if you are forced to follow through that guideline that they already have, and you don't have the ability to potentially move away from, you know, what they already have, it's going to be a bit slower because it's just um, moving things around and potentially changing some of the text, but that's about it. The easiest thing that I would recommend you to do is creating something like, what is this thing? Um, Creating something like this, for example, would help based on the current website. So if I have, like, let's say that this is your current website, if you create a very simple version of the content in a way that you can just go in and say, oh, you know what, this thing should be just above because it makes more sense to be here. And in that section right here, our pricing, we kind of want this to be at the bottom, but not too much at the bottom. So that makes sense to be here. maybe there is something to change where we can potentially remove these two, or maybe remove this one because it's too much and so on. That would help you to just go through things a bit faster when it comes to the design. And so you can do that through anything. You can do that through a very simple way of taking screenshot of the entire website as it is right now and blocking out stuff. So if I'm creating like an image out of this and just pasting the image, so let's say that this is like a screenshot of the current website, you can use this and say, I don't really know if this section is a good idea. Maybe there is a need for this thing to not be here. So let me just white it out so it's not very much in view. Maybe these two right here are too much for what we're trying to achieve. And the next one, which is a full section, is also very much too much. Let me remove that. And then here we are pretty good. So that would limit the content in that landing page. Would have a hero section, the first feature, the second feature, the pricing, and the sign up button. That makes sense. There are things in there that makes no sense. So maybe the resources is something that I can remove, and the developer section is not something that we have. So let me remove that. And then once you have this, and that is working for you, you can then easily create, not that, create a screenshot of that element right here and say, I just need this element to be um, like somewhere else, and you replace it here, or you move that block somewhere and so on. So that's a way for you to just go faster in your editing and your reorganizing of the content in a way that just goes faster. And now I have this, I have the whole content that I need. The only thing that I need to do is cut the white spaces that I just added and reorganize the elements themselves. So that's one way to work with what you have and go faster compared to like being here and saying, well, this is what we currently have. So I already have the style. I can't really change that. I can change the text, but that's about it. Maybe I can change the spacing around here, but that's all I can do. And then you move on to the next section and so on. So that's forcing you to think in terms of layout and placement rather than thinking in what they have currently, if that makes sense. Because that's usually what you are going to have the most impact on. So, yeah. And we talked about it last, yeah, Ron, we talked about it last, wow, it's been a while now. Ah, I realized that this is not, I'm not going to be connected on this. Uh, what in the, oh, there, I guess. On here, I should log in. For fuck's sake. uh, Let me log in. There is an app that I saved that is basically um the app that you kind of talked about, and it's pretty nice, to be honest. I don't know if I will be able to find it quickly though. That's the usual things. Um because ass, but also, you know, the usual. The usual. We kind of talked about it, but yeah, it's been like 2 months ish. Um It is. So Xiangsu is a website that is the baby in between Pinterest and um, Instagram and TikTok together, and it's really good. And it's Chinese. So everything is in Chinese. I know. Um, your browser is gonna translate stuff for you. The app itself has an auto translating feature, which is pretty good. And sometimes it's annoying. But overall, the algorithm is really nice. But also the thing and the reason why I like it so much is because it is showing me things that I would have never seen otherwise. Like it is a lot of Chinese design, and therefore there is like a ton of design choices that they make that is not what I'm used to. Probably what not you are used to either, unless you are Chinese, in which case, you know. um, but yeah, it's really nice to see for inspiration, at least for me, to see things that I'm probably never gonna see. Like shit like this is not a common occurrence in European slash um, Western-ish design style. We have some illustration, but they are not like that cute. And we do like to see these, um, and they make sense. So we like it. I feel like it's supposed to be somewhere around here. That's also the sad thing. I recognize or I remember the color and I remember the design, but there is so much ass on my feed that obviously I forgot where it is. I think I also have it on Pinterest, to be honest, somewhere. But yeah, it has like one of the nicest green, sage green color for the entire app with a mix of like white background plus glass. And it looked really good. It was pretty interesting. And for what Yoren is trying to build, um, it's neat. It is neat. I think it's a good reference. But let me see if I can find that there. What Clio? Yeah, that's not the one, but that's kind of the same thing. But yeah, there has been like a lot of other options that you could take as a reference, and yeah, that's a very similar interface than the one that I had seen. Sadly, I can't find the one that I talked about. It's pretty sad. Again, going back to the discussion that we had um, about this project, potential project, build it for you, build it for your needs. And if you want it to be successful, as in providing it to other people, talk about it while you are building it. If you're not, you will just release it and then that's it, and no one will know it exists. And if you just want it for you, just build it for you and don't talk about it, and you just use it. Cybersect, hi, welcome on in. How are you? Are you seeing the stream? I think yes. I think you are. Um, Again, I have like so many apps that I've built for myself, and I'm like never talking about it because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And in a lot of these things, a lot of these things are just like for me stuff. I just needed some very quick calculation stuff and so on. So yeah, Canna, hi. Yes, new design indeed. New design indeed. The pink is not good. I hate it. It's not. It's not a good pink yet, and I feel like we need. The red is good. Yes. The purple is fine, and the green is the default, which is good. But yeah, there is like I need to figure something out. It's also currently in more of a dark mode theme than anything else, and we might have to switch that for uh, a lighter mode at some point. So yeah, yeah. I don't. You have pink here. That thing is pink. That's what matters. That's what matters. So yeah, do the app, Vero. Do the app. That's the most important thing. Do the thing so that it works for you. Also, congrats on lending. I just saw that you are lended. Um, in the Halloween themed drop game. Again, specifically because right now you can build the thing in a day. um, so yeah, maybe do that. Do I think knowing how to code help design? Yes. And no, but yes. So I don't know how to code, and I'm not a dev, but I've built apps on my own using AI and other things to help me do the coding part because I don't really understand it. Um, and you know, um, it's so much easier for me than for someone that doesn't know how these works because I have a mental model of what I can do and how I can do it when I'm designing something. So if I'm inside of Figma, for example, and I'm looking at this section, my brain as a designer, you know what? Let's go into the dark mode. That's going to be better. My brain as a designer on this thing is going to see the header, the hero, and then the logos underneath. And I know exactly how to build that in design. Like there is no question for me. This is such an easy thing. This is a stack of auto layout frames inside of Figma, um, like on top of each other. The only one that might be a bit annoying is this section because these things are going to need to be some sort of an absolute positioning, and maybe these blobs on top. I don't know. We're gonna see how we can do that. Like that's basically an auto layout frame right here and another one right here, which are into space between, which makes sense. Same thing here, but that's not space between. We have like 2.5 elements. The eyebrow is higher than the rest. That's also because of the font itself. But that's really simple for me. When it comes to thinking about it in terms of code, because I know similar how similar the code in CSS and in Tailwind and so on is going to be, I'm going to have a very easier time for me to translate that to the devs that are going to work on this. So by knowing that and having the ability to communicate with the devs and telling them exactly how things are supposed to be set up, they are going to have an easier time with what they are trying to build, and I am going to have an easier time with them in the long run. So my understanding of code, even though limited, is helping me understand what I can do, what I can't do, and how I can build things in order to make the life of my devs and the lives of the people that are supposed to build the thing better and not harder. So by knowing how to code, or at least having the understanding of the syntax and the understanding of the feasibility of things, you end up with the ability to just go through the building of content in code and understanding how things are made, and therefore communicating with the devs or the people that are building things in a way that makes everyone happier at the end of the day. So that would be the main recommendation, right? Um, so with knowing how to code, or at least knowing what are the limitation of the thing that I'm building, um, it's going to be way easier for me to then just say, oh, that thing that I'm currently doing inside of Figma is not feasible. Like that's gonna be uh, it's gonna be feasible, but it's gonna be a bit of a pain in the ass to build. Like let's use one of these because that's a very nice one. Um, when I built my Japanese learning app last year, I thought about something that was like kind of reacting to light. So I had like a light ray on the side. Then you can see that the edge is taking a highlight based on where the light is coming from. And my idea was to have this basically react to where the light source was going to be in the room that the user is in. So if they had like a light source around here, the highlight would be at the top of that element and so on. And in Figma, this is extremely simple to do. In code, not that much. It is, but not that much. And that was before liquid glass came up. And so now liquid glass is a thing. So you just add the glass and it works. But that as a concept in terms of building this thing properly inside of code, that would have been like a hard thing to do. So I had to kind of revamp my idea and make things a bit easier on myself to make sure that the design that I'm building and the code that I'm building as well is feasible and good. But yeah, so it helps. You don't need to be the best at it. You just need to understand enough to make a difference. Like, if you can go into, you know, your dev's file and see something and be like, I can read it and I understand how it will look like, that's a pretty easy, I mean, not easy, but like that's a pretty good thing to do. Um, if I'm going into this one, for example, you might not necessarily understand what that syntax mean or how things are supposed to look in the beginning, but once you have a bit more experience with the code itself, but also with like the logic of the language and so on, you will understand this way better than anything else. So yeah. So to recap, yes, knowing code helps a lot. It also helps you, like, the biggest helps is your communication with the devs. Like, your relationship with the devs in the company are going to be way greater, way better because you have the ability to just communicate with them and exchange and understand both sides and so on. And so if you understand their side, maybe they would be more interested in your side, then you can explain things in design terms. And, the best thing is when you understand how complex things are for them at times and how easy things are for them at times, and they understand how tedious it is to find like the right font, the right color, the right radius, the right spacing, and so on your side, then maybe because they see that you're making an effort on understanding what you can do to make their lives easier, they will potentially make an effort in making sure that um, you know, they make the design in a way that you have designed in the first place. So making sure the spacing are right, making sure the colors are right, and so on. That's something that happened for me in some of the agencies that I worked in the beginning, where um, it helped. So yeah, that's the thing. That is a thing that I could recommend. Um, in the continuing of thing, we didn't talk about it on Friday because I forgot. That's my bad. That's my bad. Um, this is new and it's annoying. So Roger said that they wanted to do something for the longest time in Figma Draw specifically, but also in Figma in general, to have the cut tool to automatically go back. And that is really bad because when you are illustrating, you're usually going into the cut tool to cut multiple points, and then you go back into your edit tool to just remove the elements. And right now that pisses me off. So I needed to send a DM to Roger to say, well, let me define that, please. Anyways, um, Stony, that is that kind of look at the theme choice that I made for you 3 years ago. Kinda, for some reason, you know, kinda. I've seen that often, and and that gradient is so bad, and I hate it for many reasons, but I understand why people are making it or adding them. So yeah, yeah, that's the fucking that's the video that I was referring to earlier about building things with AI. God damn, everyone is looking the same. That's really weird today. The AirPods Pro today are moving out of my ears. I don't know why. Can you make a transparent version of my app icon that I can use as a themable icon on top of the colored background? Yes, you already have one. You already have one. I think. I think. Didn't I do that? I didn't? Yeah, I did that as an option, but do you mean something that is like the one we used here, basically, with the split in between the elements? Because we can reuse that. Um, I know what you are looking for, though, based on the fact that I've done the same thing for can right there. You know what? I'm gonna change that. Let me just do this. Yeah, it's in there and it's there and it's supposed to be not that, but that. I need the message to be contained that. That should be good. That should be good. I'm gonna kill people. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know what that is. That should have worked. That should have worked. It didn't. I couldn't use images as a background for the splash screen. Hmm. Yeah, you're basically doing the thing that I have done um, right here, right? What you mean here? So, yeah, I know. Bitch. I forgot if I can zoom in on this one. Um, yeah. So, this background gradient thing is taken from the user theme. So if I have multiple different perfumes, it's going to take or make different themes in the loading screen. So what I think you want to do is basically the same thing, right? It's the same ID that I have. Can I do that? I don't think I can. Basically making sure that when I'm loading here the theme, you basically have that gradient that is from the theme. Android does allow that. You know how I know? Um, I have it here, right? That is the gradient in question that is taken from the theme. So right now it's green because, green. But if I change the theme and I go red, for example, and I kill the app, that is going to be red. That's the thing. So the color is inside of a variable that is used globally, and then that's it. And then that's it. And there is also an image in that splash screen background loading thing. So technically for you, you can do
Corita is
that.
now following.
Corita. Hi, welcome in. How are you? Who are you? How did you find the stream? Thanks a lot for following. Appreciate it. You're the first of the day. You're the first of today. Um, which I forgot to do that. Yes, that is true. That is true. Uh, so much thing that I forgot. God damn. God damn. And thanks a lot for chatting. I appreciate it. So yeah, you can do it, but for what you're trying to do right here and the goal or your goal of having basically that, right? That was your initial output potential thing, right? As far as I remember, you wanted this. You can have this 1 second. I, going back to what you said, don't format your daily driver. Yes, that is a good thing. I don't have Android Studio right now. Uh, my bad. Oh, bitch, get out. Yes, I have. Huh, them bitches. Um, it wasn't planned. Listen, it wasn't planned, and it still happened. So, yeah, nah. Are you still downloading? Are you so fat? Yeah, I'm streaming at the same time. That's true. That's true. That's something that is. I didn't think about that. By the way, because I changed to macOS Tahoe to have everything, this is shit. This entire new experience is shittier than I expected. I expected it to be good, and it's just breaking all the times. And what is pissing me off the most is this section. Um, the the gradient blur on any of the windows is breaking all the time. So if I go into a view that is like usually it's breaking when I'm here. If I go into a view that has uh, some sort of a video card things used, you will see how it kind of glitches at times, and it's just not making any fucking sense because it's supposed to be working, but right now in front of me, apparently for you, you don't see the glitch, which is crazy because right now it's just, it's just breaking all the time, and it makes no sense. I had some issues with the sound again, and yeah, I was expecting Liquid Glass to be much better, and now it's not. So yeah, it happens. So going back to installing Narwhal on this computer, I just hope I don't need to reload. It's 3 gigs. God dang. But yeah, this shit, I hate it. That's where we are. I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't care. Oh, yeah, no, stream is stable. That's gonna take a bit. But as far as I remember, right, you have in your splash screen, launch screen thing the ability to create or define an element that is the gradient. That's just a color addition, and then you have the image on top, which is your white logo, the white version of the logo. That should be an option. Um, but yeah, it should be easy again. Wild statement, but it should be pretty easy to have on the Android version as well as the iOS version. Not that you care about the iOS version, but you know, should. I don't like matcha. No, even though I lived in Japan for 2 years, Um, Never liked it, which is kind of sad. But yeah, never really liked it. Um, and why is that empty though? Sorry, I just saw something that is really bad. Uh, is this? Oh no, this is Android Studio. Oh fuck. Ah, well, that's on one fucking Git. I don't think I have the time nor the energy to just log in and do shit. So I'm gonna go there instead. But yeah, no, matcha is basically just grass most of the time. The issue that I have with it as a an external person, and I don't like tea in general. I have a very big beef with tea based on the fact that it's just um, hot water. Matcha is stronger, so it's mostly grass. And what matcha is for most people is the overly sweet, sugared drink that we have in many shops right now. And so right now, it's not good. The real matcha that you have in Japan and in China, and in Korea as well, by the way, they are better, but it's just bitter. It's a very bitter taste, and it looks really good. That's what I'm gonna say. But if you don't like bitter things, you know, eh. But that's the yeah. For me, matcha is really bad. I don't like it. But that just me. So if that's not this might be in the UI. I forgot. I forgot where it is. Did I? Yeah. That's the thing. So I built the splash screen, Stony specifically, and the splash screen is um just a very basic thing with the colors as presets. So you have them in your like local accent color setup system thing. So it is going to be stored in the local storage thing, which is called the user default in iOS, but feel like it's just local storage on Android or local context. I don't know. So that's stored when the user changed themes, and then when the app relaunch, because that's the thing that is taken, local context, we are checking which one it is and then using that instead. Right? That's the easiest thing. And then on top of that, you have the gradient. That is the thing that I have that moves, and that's about it. Like there is the image on top. There is the secondary image in the background with the gradient and so on. And the only thing that I have that I think I remember, which obviously I don't, is in the main activity. So much import. Is it the main activity? I forgot. In the container or the file that contains all of the setups that are starting at the beginning and that defines which screens you are moving to by default, I think it's this one. I'm just saying that you are sending the user to the splash screen first and then moving on to the content when it's loaded. And I think it's somewhere like that. So yes, it is basically like a regular screen. Um, and yeah, that's how I did it on this one. Um, But yeah, that's a good question though. I don't know. uh, yeah, I don't know. Um, nope. No, you can't. Um, but yeah, I don't remember. That's what I'm. What's that? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I don't remember. I haven't touched the Android version of the app in so long, and I need to. I need to go back into polishing the Android version because it is shit. Sorry, it is what it is. But it's missing three dictionaries. Like there is three new dictionaries um that I need to have, and now it's not there. So uh yeah. Uh Not much to be honest. Not much. Yeah, the manifest doesn't give us anything that is related to the launch screen or something. It's just like, go ahead, move on. I don't, I really don't remember. That's the thing. Um, yeah. Yeah, the thing for themes that I talked about, for me is I have my colors defined. I have my theme behaviors, like that define the, as I said, you can use themes to basically create something that is CSS like, I guess, where you will define an element that will be reused across the entire app project thing. And, just like that, for example, that composable right here means that then in any other screen, I can just call for the gradient background and it's just gonna use this thing. So you can do that. I tried to do something for the font, but then I gave up because it makes no sense. It makes sense, but it makes no sense. And it's basically the same thing. as- It's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same concept as my sticker utility that I have right here in iOS, which basically states or defines uh, how things are supposed to be. So in the function that creates the thing, where's that bitch? Obviously, I'm not in here. That makes more sense to me. Um, Bitch, I know. I turned you on. So in this one, for example, I'm creating an extension of the function, which is called the stickit function, and it's giving me a stroke, not a stroke, like a stroke, and a shadow. And then after that, as soon as I do this, it just does the the CSS that needs to go onto that element, and that goes for anything. So right now I have the info circle situation. Let me just do preferred bitch. that. Um, what do you mean you're expecting something? That's not the right one. That's supposed to be right here, but that's just not how this one work. Why is it not working though? Because this is not gonna work. Yeah. No, it did work. What the fuck? My bad. My bad. Um, so if I get this and I'm giving you something like a foreground style red, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's going to give me that outline based on what I have in that modifier. So you can create modifiers and specific modifiers, as you just said, um, for the things that you have, and so that you could use that as CSS, I think, or like CSS. And again, based on the fact of things, Larkham, hi, welcome in. Uh, how are you? How have you been? It's been a while. So all of that is something that could be useful, could help, could make a difference for you to just go faster in your creation, I think. Um, so yeah, no, could be good. Could be good. So going back to this though, if these are your login screen and that's what you wanted to have, you would need to get that um, into all the colors, right? As an image, if you wanted to. But technically speaking, you probably already have that in the app somewhere. And you probably also already have that in the app somewhere in SVGs and text directly so that you can just, build the things properly rather than having anything else. So I'd recommend do that, you know, for reasons. And yeah, that sticker effect is like, it's coming from this one, I think. Yes. And it was pretty nice. Again, I read something. Can you believe that? Uh, I read the entire thing and kind of understood how things work, and then it worked. That's about it. In the beginning, the thing that they have made had like a secondary stroke that is bigger than the initial to give it like that darkened border things, and it's pretty bad. Uh, it's pretty bad. So yeah. What do you mean use keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less? Currently keyframes are not sent often enough. What do you fucking mean? Sorry, that's a weird thing. I'm still not a dev, no. Still not a dev. Um Never happened. Um, yeah, and like I did change the time of stream to start at 4. I mean 4:20, obviously. And then uh That's better. I'm thinking about streaming at 11:30 in the morning or starting at 11:30, which is basically 6:30 in Japan, to potentially have more time, but also I don't like it, so it can happen. The thing is, I am not like my not vertical. My keyframe interval is currently set to 0, which is supposed to be the base stuff. And like it's the default behavior, so it's supposed to work, but like I can't I that makes no sense. That makes no sense. Um so yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's the issue. No, I haven't stopped the cake. That that is not, no, nope, no. I don't think I have pictures of the cake, so let me see. I do. They are all the size of my hand. I have small hands, but yeah, a good hand still. Uh, I ate them in 2 days, not in one day. All right, cool. Um, so yeah, that's a thing, obviously. I don't think I have another one though. I don't think I have any of the other one which were really good, but I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah, this one is they made it for like one Saturday, and I'm so sad about it because it was so interestingly good in a way that we haven't had that before, where the biscuit, the the base was a sort of sugar and thyme and rosemary cookie-ish thing, sably type of stuff. And the inside was just raspberry and it was really, really nice. But obviously, it's not the season now for raspberry, so that's why we don't have it anymore. But goddamn, was it good! Goddamn. But that's about it. The other one was like a very, very small blueberry one that just disappeared in one day. Same thing, which we did like, but also not that much. And yeah, that's about it. Before that, I wasn't in the hospital, so that's, myself, probably. Probably. Yeah, probably. They were good though. Um, Yesterday I didn't take a picture because it makes no sense. Yesterday was the same cookies, caramel and pistachio because they're pretty good. And there is like a new. Did I not take a picture of these ones? I didn't. There is a new one at the Michalak. Um, Michalak. Uh, shop. Shop. where one of the new thing is not this one. God damn. One of the new thing is a mochi thing, and I hope they had it, but they don't. God damn it. And it's pretty nice. The good thing for me is that I'm there so often, like I'm there twice a week roughly. So I'm chatting with the guys and girls that are staff there, and yeah, most of the time I'm getting something, and then I'm getting something for free, and you know. So that happens. But they have like a very interesting mochi strawberry raspberry ish thing, and it's pretty nice. So yeah. Um Same page works for home data but not for libraries data. That doesn't. Did you define the width of that lazy vertical grid? Also, why the fuck are you using a lazy vertical grid? Oh, because you want this. Yes, that makes sense. Sorry, I said nothing. Forget about it. uh, Probably. You probably have, but you probably have it in two places. You may have you may have a conflict in the sizing. In one of them is giving you like a max width, and the other one is giving you a max width as well, which is resulting in something that is not like it that is out of bound. Usually that's what I had. Um, as far as I remember, I know I have that on SwiftUI atom, so that might be the same. Um, if you have a calculation, like if you have something that is not just fill max width, um, that might be the thing. Like I had a value that was max width plus something basically, and that was resulting in out of bound and breaking. So check your parents, or basically underneath for you. I don't know, above for you because it's uh your modifiers are at the top. So yeah, check above, and that might be there. I don't know. I don't know. Not that I know anything about what I'm talking about right now, but you know, I do remember that we had some issues um, with with some of these things. Why are you not reusing the same view instead and just passing the data um, into the same content? Like saying this is the view and it takes a parameter of data source thing or this or that instead of having three times the same thing, unless that's exactly what you're doing. That's probably what you're doing based on what you're saying. Yeah, that might be the issue. That means that you have three times the same screen with duplication of the code, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This one was funny to me. So, Apple Design account is an Apple Funboy Funboy account, of course. And I love how they say funny how Apple drops Liquid Glass and Samsung and Microsoft and many more suddenly started adding depth to the icon. And that tells me that either this is rage bait, which is really good for Twitter, it works 100% of the time, or they have no fucking clue what they are talking about. Glass is coming from way, way further before, and the fact that design styles are getting similar across brands at similar times is usually the result of the like overall consciousness, global consciousness of the designers that are moving into a very specific direction and that have been trying to do things. And then at the same time, because they don't like decide to change things in like 2 months, 2 months and 2 months is potentially, but like, it takes a bit longer than that. So all of these things have been in the work for longer. Specifically on regular Android apps, you would have these designs for the longest time. And for Microsoft, Fluent Design is specifically their website is the glassiest of glassiest pitch that we have seen in years. And it's been more liquid and bendy glass and like gummy like than what Apple has created for like the past 3 to 4 years, but no one's talking about it. This is one of the first presentation that they had, and the material was glass and transparent glass, um, not liquid. But yeah, since their rebranding in 2022 and 2021, when they started to do most of the illustration types um, that they have here, like most of these things for their videos and their things, they have been using glass. So, you know, they've been building on this physicality and so on for a long time. So this is funny. That's the only reason why I like this one. Um, this is interesting, but that's not really necessary. This one was neat. That's it. um, that's just that's just what we want. That's that's the type of design that we want. Not everyone, but the fact that this thing is still looking that good once it's stripped down, even though this is a bit of a sad thing because you lost the um, MagSafe and apparently you also lost the Flash, you know. So not the best option, but uh, as a concept, I wish this was a thing. And yeah, it's pretty neat. It is pretty neat. This is something that we talked about. I feel like we talked about this one 2 years ago. There was an app which might have been Rebel. I don't think so, but it might have, which basically is emulating Paint for digital artists and so on in a way that is so good that I could be fooled. And when you look at the demo specifically, that first red paint is just impressive. So yeah, that's that's going into the impressed situation. You know, not impressed by a lot of things, but like impressed. This one was pretty neat as well in terms of idea of how to build something. The fact that this window is entirely split into all of the sections to create the depth, and then the video player is only one thing and the furthest bottom is pretty impressive. Um, looks pretty neat. You know, small stuff. Small stuff. This is the descent of Apple design. We've been talking about it for a while. We've been talking about it more since liquid glass was announced during the keynote. And that's another proof that they have probably too much thing to think about right now, specifically for design related stuff. They are using different width of icons across the same array of icons, but also for an icon that is supposed to be a system-based element. So you can see that here you have the icon that is the thicker version, same thing here. And on these two, you have the thinner version of the back button. And that's, you would never notice that as a regular user. You don't know. You don't pay attention to that. So that's fine. No one cares. But as a designer and as designers are looking at things, we see these details and we're like, that's kind of sad. What pisses me off here specifically is the fact that this one is the thicker one. This one looks like it's an in-between, and this one is the thinner one. So it feels like this is a 2-point icon, this is a 1.5, and this is a 1 point, or technically a 1.2. And then this one is back to a 1.5. So that is a bit of inconsistency that we expect Apple to not do, specifically in the design department. But they still do. So, going back to the question from earlier, sometimes you make mistake or you do things badly, and sometimes Apple does too. So don't worry about it. Going back into the not giving a fuck. Yes. It could be something. This one was funny to me, right? I submitted my resignation to OpenAI, and they rejected it because apparently you can't resign when you don't work there, which makes sense. But it's a bit of an engagement bait for the 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 title. That's about it. That's about it. This one was cute as a concept. So they have this as their initial logo, right? I think that they have. And then based on said logo, they have expanded their design language through other things. And I feel like they have made a very, very good job at creating these icons. And playing with the creations and playing with the colors and so on based on the logo. I feel like this is pretty good. I feel like this is pretty good. Grizz, hi, welcome back. How are you? How's the day going? How's the day going? We've had one person land today, and it wasn't me, so, wasn't you. Yeah. Freda, hi, welcome on in. How are you? How did you find the stream? That's the regular things. Um, we're doing some design reviews on my Twitter feed right now. One of the things that I'm seeing and talking about the concept, the potential patterns that comes out, and some of the things that we can see in the future soon-ish, based on how much I see specific things. Like these illustrations are what I call the Tokyo illustration style, but they are merged with some gradients and some other patterns. So yeah. So yeah. Yeah, there is Prefume is available on macOS if you're on macOS 26. So yeah. That's the thing. Chris, hi, welcome in. Welcome back. So yeah, these ones are interesting in terms of what we are seeing. So this is like mid-journey creation, mid-journey generation. When you look at them, I'm kind of blown away by the potential quality that we have. There are things that just makes no sense, and the patterns are repeating in a way that it's just like too fake when you're zooming in. But when you are looking at them from far away, they look really much like crayon illustration, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, um, I have like 40, 38. Last time I checked, I had 48 testers because it's limited to 50. I may have reached 50 already. I don't know. But yeah, it's working. I had some bugs. I fixed the bugs. I need to do other things, but I had to reset my Mac. So now that's going to be for this week. So yeah, so that's an interesting thing. We've seen these, and I just want to go back to some of the details that I've talked about before. If you look at this, which is the layout, and you remove the background, these are one of the most boring layouts that you can have in an app. The only thing that stands out is the fact that they have a different font, specifically for the L and the U, and then this one has a very different font than the rest. That's it. Uh, and so with that, you just add some background that makes it more interesting, and you know, it's more popular. But yeah, the animation in the background, the transition in the loading and so on is yeah. Um I do the design and I code through Cursor because that's the only thing that I can do. Um kinda. And lately I've been living in SwiftUI for so long that I'm also doing the code for anything that is visual, anything that is like technical. Um I can't do that for myself. Not yet. I I could. Maybe at some point. You know. Maybe. But yeah, that's the current project is Perfume, which is this thing, which is a perfume recommendation app. Something that helps you as the user if you have like perfumes. Um, you just have better recommendation in the morning and organize your collection in a way that just makes more sense to you. So just playing with this, making sure that this is pretty good when it comes to where we are right this instant. Also, this is one of my previous app. The the app really works, weirdly enough. I'm impressed by myself and my ability to just build this thing. It's working well enough for me to be able to be like, well, we have something that just, you know, works and does exactly what I wanted it to do in the first place. So that's the idea. It's a way for me to make sure that I remember what I think about a perfume, and I'm not like missing out or anything. So that's a good idea. We could save that clip. Um, and yeah. No, I mean the glass is pretty good to be honest. And because this is like uh, iOS only, it's working. It's good. Um, I mean right now we do have this, I think, but yeah, it's not good enough. So yeah, no, so far it's pretty much working. It's not the best, but it's working. It does its job, and the glass itself is doing its glass because Apple is doing pretty good with glass in general. So that's good. Yeah, the contrast here is not good. I know. I can't fix it though. Um, yeah, I can't fix it. Most of it is good though. Most of it contrast wise is good, but yeah, for that is kind of sad. I wish I understood a bit more, but yeah. I did this for me, but it could become a business. It it is linked to my company, my personal design agency. Same thing as this one. Can is the other one that I have that I've made last year. Basically November last year. So yeah, last year. And it's a way to learn Japanese for topics that you are interested in. So let's say you are interested in slangs, which is the dictionary that I have practiced the most. Um, or you are interested in food, and food in Japanese has different meaning, different words, different things, and so you have a dictionary to just, practice. Sefu. Mm. Mm. Kiru. And you can practice and so on. Can doesn't look on iOS 26. That it doesn't work. The issue that we have is that the system is understanding that the search is supposed to be where the search is supposed to be, which is at the bottom of the screen. Because at the bottom of the screen right now, I don't have a navigation view. Like in Prefume, the navigation view is there, but I have a search bar. And so the system recognized that there is something at the bottom, and therefore it shouldn't like overlap things. But here, because these are non-native navigations, specifically this thing, I'm ending up with the search bar that is here underneath my navigation. No, not underneath, on top of my navigation bar. So you can't navigate. So I need to fix that, and I need to fix many more stuff um, on Android first before I can touch this thing in making it liquid glass. But then again, there is no need for glass much. Like the only thing that I would potentially have as glass is the buttons that are at the top because they are native. They would turn themselves into glass automatically, which is pretty good. The rest of the design is, I feel like, is pretty good. Obviously, I'm biased, but um, but yeah, the only one that just pissed me off is this section. I just hate it. The settings in the newer version are so much more rounded and more appreciated to me by me than this. So yeah, I'm gonna need to fix that. But um, we're going to see what we can do with all of that. There is like a ton of small details that can be changed and so on. Yes, I'm using a Mac for most of the things, and I have a PC as well, but I don't like Windows in general. Um, Not really the OS that I use. So I have it because I need it for some of the the voice activated things, as in when if I don't have my hands, right? And I say technically, that's triggered automatically. There is other words that are triggering things, and that is only working through Windows word detection for me. I could make it work on macOS, but it's just like, yeah, it's working. So the whole PC is just for this voice activated transitions and things, and that's about it, which is not good enough. But yeah, I'm working on macOS for everything because it makes more sense to me. I mean, I have been growing up with a Mac since as long as I can remember. The I've showed that before. My first Mac, the first Mac that I remember is the uh, I think it's the two. Yep. That uh that is even this one. I feel like this is more for a family one. Was it the first one? I do remember this one. I had one of these, um, that mouse specifically, that that one click mouse because there was no right click at the time. I do remember these. So, um, that's the yeah. That's dating me a bit. But yeah, I used to have one of these. Um, and so since then, I've been on macOS. And yeah, I've seen any and every version since then. I've tried Windows many times. I had Windows in school because, um, no, not yet. Like this one is 41 years old, which is like just 10 year older than me, you know. So, eh. All that to say that my dad had older techs, like really old stuff. But yeah, it was nice to work on these things and I guess being brought to the technology with these rather than Windows. Um, but then again, coming back to today, I don't see much difference. The only thing that pisses me off is the fact that most of the time when I have something to do on the PC, it's breaking. I need drivers, I need to set up stuff, I need to download specific things, and it's just a lot of pain for no fucking reason. Whereas here, I'm getting stuff working almost instantly, almost every time. Yes, at times there are things that are breaking for sure. There are things that are absolutely shit and are not meant to be happening on this machine, but it still works. So, like I don't know. I don't know. I do like macOS more than Windows for most of the design related stuff. And again, lately because I just moved to macOS Tahoe, I don't like it. There is a lot of issues with it, and there's a lot of things that needs to be fixed. Ob Hopefully, kinda. I'm currently on the beta, even though it is available for users. Um, it's I can still push for things to not break or not break the same way. So yeah. Anyways, I kept this one for the pastel E off-white E thing that we talked about last week. There is a ton of these things for the paper texture, and I was saying maybe I could have something similar with that yellow for the notes that you're taking about your perfumes in the app. But now that I'm seeing it a lot more, I don't know if it's a good idea. Um, but I might. It might happen at some point. We'll see. Nonetheless, they also have stickers and other illustrations that are pretty cool. So we do like this. I kept this one for the same reason, which doesn't really matter. This is something that I could, for no special reasons, recommend. So that person is saying that if you live in Europe, right, and you should start to get interested in Meshtastic, Wi-Fi Direct, and Shadow Socks and other things to, um, just to uh, just to understand how you can communicate wirelessly between people just for fun, for no particular reason. If you're in Europe, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, it doesn't make any sense, and that's good. That is fine. This one was pretty cool. Again, one of the Japanese people that I'm following are doing good stuff. Um, so yeah, that's it. This one was for you, Stony, specifically because I remember you wanted something like this for your um for the logo in the cap on the emotes at some point. And on this one, you can kind of see some of the details that I was talking about that might be interest interesting. I don't know, but yeah, interesting to you. So there are like directions in the threads when you're building these embroidered stickers thing that you need to have. You can see that most of the threads are going either at like vertical, horizontal, or 45 degrees, but they usually don't go at a weird angle. We have some weird angles in the transitions, but it's not something that is like a common behavior. But most of them are like pretty straight and then pretty 45. So that's something that you can take into consideration when you're building the icon itself, if you do at some point. But it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice thing. We saw that earlier. We saw that 3 years ago. We saw that at the reveal of the dynamic island, and it's still relevant. It's an interesting behavior of really making sure that the content is aligned, but it doesn't necessarily work most of the time. And the reason is when you're blurring an element, specifically in Figma, you don't end up with this. You end up with not a blob, but mostly something that is um, faded out. So if I just, for the sake of showing you what I'm talking about, if we had this and you said you wanted to get, um, do I have a fucking plane? I don't know if I do. Let's see. The blur is giving you what we called the visual alignment, or at least the visual weight of the elements, which will basically help you understand how much space something take. Meaning that the difference in between this icon that is massive, like my dick. No, that's yeah, Dave. I think it's 40. I think it's 40. Right, if I place it here, which is what they're doing, and I place it mathematically, um, with what it's supposed to be, it's gonna be pretty good. But if you look at it in terms of visual weight, my container, let's add a fill, which is going to be red at like 10% or something. Um, my container is indeed properly aligned. We have 8, 8, 8. It's pretty good. If I were to make that like a circular element, it would be perfectly in the center, and that's pretty good, right? The thing is, technically speaking, this icon, and that's just a this icon situation, is actually this. Um, like that's the size of it, and it's not exactly where it's supposed to be. So there is a need for it to go zero point 0.5 pixel down, and in order to align, it's supposed to go 2 pixel to the left side. The thing is, again, this element is not still the visual weight of the icon itself. The visual weight is going to be somewhere along the line of right about here, um, maybe something like this is the visual weight, correct visual weight, which means that we are roughly aligned, but not really because it's a small icon. By making it blurred, and yes, I want to know the issue. By making it blurred, you end up with something that gives you what is um, the face, not the face, but like the space that the thing takes in terms of the visual. And you want to make sure, based on that trick specifically, that you have, let me do what they did with this. Let's do a point, I don't know, point one, point two, point something, point. Well, let's do point two. Um, right? If you align your container, you will see where the edges of that blurred element are kind of stopping, and that is where your icon is supposed to be. So if we were to be exact, it might need to be right here, like 1 pixel difference, and that will align it better in terms of where it is. Most of the time it works by using, like, if you have already visually aligned the icon inside of its container, you should be pretty good. What? Yeah, that's the thing. So that trick that Apple is doing is usually, that's crazy. It's usually just um, to preserve where things are supposed to be and how things are being placed. The thing is, I do have an issue with this mainly because of the spacing that we have at the bottom and the way that it's also not something that happened. If you look at how they are blurring things when it comes to that transition right about here, the blur is really uniform. It's also really emphasized. Whereas here, if I'm blurring this, and let's say I'm blurring it a bit more to have like a blob that is a bit better, it's just diffusing itself. It's not getting contained. And so for you to achieve something that is similar, you're going to have a very hard time. And that's the reason why I kind of don't like it. It's just like it, you can, but it's not good enough, but not that good. So yeah, I do like the presentation, obviously, because they did a very good job at making sure that this thing looks good. But yeah, um, the usual thing for me is I'm trying to achieve square distance. I've talked about that before. So if I have like, God damn it, if I have an input, um, like a very basic input field, let's say I don't have a left button because it's gonna make more sense. That icon itself needs to be roughly in a square around the element. So even here, I have a bit of an issue with it. But I'm usually saying that if my element is here and my icon is going to be like a 24 by 24 blob in the center, let's do that. Let's put that in black. Let's add a stroke that is outside, and let's do to the distance. My usual goal for the alignment is making sure that this thing has its square And then my secondary element, like the text usually, is basically the same thing in order to align content. So we want that space in between the icon itself and text to be roughly the same as the one at the top and the bottom. And then for the text, for buttons specifically, there is some sort of a false rule of we want this to be like a tad more than what it is to give it more space and visual alignments. But that's like, it depends on the day and sometimes it doesn't matter. Um, Most of the time it doesn't matter. But that's basically it. You want for the icons specifically, when they are on the edges, you want, I want them to be inside of squares, and or I want the edge of the element to be um, inside of a square. That makes no sense if I just saying this. If I have, if I have a card like this, and let's say I want to have a title, so that's going to be bitch. One sec. That's going to be the title, right? You want to have um, the placement of the elements. Let's say we have a subtitle, and then you have your text underneath, right? So on. You basically want this corner to be in a square position, square distance from the corner of its parent. So from here, if I did like a square, 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 I basically want this entire thing to go down to be roughly here. That happens at times, and depending on the first letter of the word, you might be saying, well, it could be higher or lower or so on. So based on the font that we're using, sometimes, because we know that the main title for the thing is going to be something like this. For example, the font itself is going to be something like this. And the size of the container, the hex height of that font, is way taller. So instead of mathematically putting this here, I'm going to put the entire thing again to roughly have my title font exactly at a square distance, giving me in the visual alignment of what I'm seeing something that is way better than what we had before. So maybe this needs to be right here, which would be like something at 0, and then you have the text underneath and so on. So that's one way to align content. Usually this is mostly for fonts, not necessarily just for icons, but the squaring stuff tends to help and tend to work. It's also really good to remember that it's like fonts are such a viable element, and icons are such a viable element as well. You may have some icons that have what we call footprint that is really tiny, really thin, and others that have the footprint that is way bigger. So there are some adjustment that needs to happen. And going back to Ines on YouTube, your question earlier for knowing code, some of the things that we have in Swift UI, for example, are the SF symbols. All of these things, they have personal sizing, meaning that these two, for example, the infinity symbol and the cloud symbol, the infinity is thinner and wider than the cloud itself by default, unless you really make sure that you resize them. But that is something to think or to keep into consideration when you are building your design, because you have things that may push content more than expected or less than expected, depending on the icon that you select. So for me, in the discovery section, for example, these ones, if I didn't use the circled version of the icons, the use different pulse point, the second one, would have the text more to the left than the rest of the icons because it is technically a thinner icon than the rest. So that's something to keep in mind. And you can just organize content with circles, and circles kind of work. Most of the time, you end up with something that's pretty fine, you know. So, yeah, that's the thing. I think that happens. Into the question, right? I think so. Yeah, that's one way to do stuff and align your content. These are some icons. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, so yes, Tony, you said there was a carousel for music in there which does not align with the restriction. Aha. See? I knew there was something. I knew there was something. Um, I guess that's an option. So yeah, this one is it's a pretty nice trick. It doesn't necessarily work all the time, again, as I said, but it will help to align things when needed. Um, it's just like going back to where we were right there, because that's gonna be useful. If I have that container, right, and I want to resize it to make sure that my content is properly aligned, if you just use the option key, and the shift key to make sure that you have the thing that keeps the same aspect ratio, you can see how the size on the side are not good. Like I should have something that is mostly keeping the same diagonal potential, but that's not how it works. So you end up needing to do things in a way that is not necessarily how you would think about it. And so the easiest way to get your concentric content, specifically if you have like corner radius and shit, is going to use like a stroke on top of the content at, like, let's say you have your content that is white for now, and you want to make sure that you have your um, spacing inside to be a very specific distance. You make sure that you have this as a red or blue or whatever size you want. I'm usually using 20%, and then I'm just bumping the size. So if I know that I have a spacing for my content to be something like 8 or 6 or 16 or something, I'm going to do that on my inner border to get the spacing and the distance, and then I kind of get or use that as a guide, even though it's not like something that you can easily snap to because it's a fucking border, but you end up with something that is much better and much easier to play with by the standard that Apple set. Because this is the only way to have something that is concentric using the inside stroke thing. So yeah, that's uh, that's the thing. Um, and yeah, we've seen that. We talked about that type of things 2 years ago. The seals and the holographic seals things that are coming back uh, this year, they are really much coming back. There's a lot of really interesting things happening on this design that are really bad, but I'm also hoping that these things are working well when they are inside of the app and not necessarily outside. Like, that's bad, and that's not the best, but that's okay. And this one is an interesting thing because it's a stamped with textures and things, but then the gradient is probably, I'm hoping this is a gradient that is only visible when you are not moving, and then when you're moving, it does its thing because, if that makes sense. Obviously biased, right? Um, like that makes so much more sense. The fact that, you know, things move when your phone is moving, that makes a lot of sense. And so for me, I would say that this is necessary right here. We need to have something very similar to make it work. So yeah, small details. Small thing, the illustration that we talked about on Friday is still pretty good, but there is like more than they have shared about the website itself, which makes me sad because like this is a very cool 2025 type design. This is a 2024 design related to isocone. That is a very mm, um, I don't think it's called ISO icon. Yeah, there is a fucking website. It's the website that is probably linked to this, but right now, obviously, I'm not gonna find the thing for many reasons. Um, Dang. Do they have the fucking website on this? No? God dang. Anyways, these ones are very much like 2023, 2024 icon types. They're really good. Um, but, you know, very much the same style. And then here on these designs, these ones are pretty interesting, right? Cool to see and so on. But then that one is really intriguing to me. It has that glass effect of liquid glass, but it doesn't really seems to be working. And the darker shades and the highlights on the side seems to make it feel like it's breaking and a mistake compared to anything else. So, small details. Small details. These ones were cool. That's it. Nothing else to say. And then I don't think that works, but um, yeah, it's a very different thing. I think that's mostly it for Twitter. I have other things on here, but as always, I cannot. Uh, yeah, you know, regular things. Regular things. Um, I was looking at this earlier today. By the way, this is a botanical illustration library thing, which is under the public domain, which means that I have full rights to, take these and use them in the app. It's not good. It's not as good as I expected them to be. There is a lot of images and content and so on that are potentially really good. Like these ones are really, really impressive. But I would need the entirety of um, exactly what I need to make sure that I could use these as a base. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of impractical. But it looks really cool, and might be something that we use in the future. I don't know yet, but there is like so much um, images and illustrations. It's just inconsistent, and that's the reason why I'm not sure about it. It's just like when you look at the illustration themselves, some of them are from different era, from different books, from different illustrators, and you end up with stuff that just don't fit together. So that's the reason why I'm like, I don't know if that's something that is usable, but we'll see. Um, and then lastly, I have this thing that I kind of liked a long time ago. This is like a something by Radiophone that is using metal shaders to create this kind of metallic and light effect. Going back to what I was saying about the sticker, it's the same concept, it's the same idea. You just need the colors to be a bit different than the metal one, and then you have a very cool effect. It's just I fear I fear that some of the metal shaders are very GPU intensive at times, and if you had that in small burst here and there, it might just break the app. Knowing the fact that right this instant, um, the the detail page right here, right, seems pretty simple, seems pretty good. As soon as the color is popping in and that my particles are popping in and so on, the phone starts to get like hotter and hotter and hotter. It's really, really GPU intensive because of how much blur we have on each of the particles. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe at some point it will be working, maybe not. But I might use that. So yeah, again, that's the reason why I have so many things from Radiophone that are like loaded and checking the code and so on. But yeah, not really. So kinda, but it's such a so. Let me rephrase that. The glass thing that are made by Apple, no. The glass thing that are made by others, yes. Anything that is Apple made is going to be the most optimized and integrated that we can have inside of the iPhone. Um, and therefore it's okay. Like it doesn't really impact the GPU much, but it still does, right? There's no denying that it still does, but it's as optimized as it can be, and therefore it's kind of non impactful. On Android, though, anything that is so I'm rocking Xiaomi phones and Oppo phones, which Oppo had more glass than Xiaomi for the longest time, and now Xiaomi is kind of catching up at times. Um, it does affect the GPUs, but not that much. Like it's fine when it's system based. When it's user based, it's not good. So to answer the question, yes, it kind of does affect the GPU if you're overusing it. If you're just using it when it's necessary, then you're kind of good. Nothing necessarily bad can happen, and you know you're good with it. So yeah, that's the thing. God, they. um, Most of these things are just like particle elements, shaders regarding other activities and stuff that I need to just check the code for. Because I mean it's fine, but it's also like kind of not necessarily the most understandable for me. um like it makes sense, but it's also like not necessarily making that much sense. From what I do understand, is it's just for this one specifically, it is transforming the text into an image, exploding the image pixels, and then when the pixels are back to their original position, it transforms it back to text, which is kind of weird of a behavior. But I mean, I get it, kind of. But it's interesting. I wish I had like a preview, a visual preview, so that I could just play with it. Like all. So we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait for this to work. Other than that, uh, pretty good. Pretty good. So yeah, much stuff. Much stuff on this one. Oh, that's bad. I see. Why? Holy fuck. Uh, Twitch is really not happy with streaming, to be honest. Also, I'm still in 720p. Or let me say that again. I'm back in 720p when I shouldn't. So that makes no sense either. Um, yep. I don't get it. It's fine. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Anyways, am I gonna send you to someone who's like, cat's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's playing games. What a concept. What a concept. All right. I'm sending you there. There is an advertisement, not an advertisement. There is a warning saying that this is an 18 plus stream. So if you're not 18 plus, I mean, this is an 18 plus stream, anyways. So yeah, thanks so much for being here. Highly appreciate it. As always, did I forgot that? I did. God damn. The VOD is going to be on YouTube. As always, if you are having questions and I'm not live, you can join Discord and ask the question there. That's an option. It's a very cool option. You can stalk me online if you want to, and I shall be back on Wednesday. Wednesday's the day. That's the day. Yes. And as always, if you want to learn Japanese, you can use Can, and if you want to give me some money, you can uh, buy UI kit or subscribe. That's an option. But yeah, that's the thing. That's where we are. Goddamn. I wish we had the counter at the end. Either at the bottom or the top or somewhere. I don't know exactly where I want to put it, but I will put it somewhere at some point. We'll see. Anyways, take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your day. Eat something, drink something, be kind to each other. You know the drill. And I'll see you all on Wednesday. Bye.